Thank you so much for being here today. And today, what I want to give is a couple nuggets of information that hopefully you can use for your own financial independence. To give a clear picture of what I'm going to be talking about, let me take you back to about 1997. My kids were 1 and 3. And I came to really realize the financial swirl my family was in. And see, my then husband, if he had $1 in his pocket, he would spend 2 all day long. And my job was to make it work. So I would bounce debt around like a ball on a tennis court in order to keep bills paid, groceries in the house, utilities on, car payment made, all those fun things that we all deal with every day. And I had to become very savvy so that I could provide food for the family. And I could tell you from memory, the 3 grocery stores that I shopped at weekly, what their prices were on the things that we bought every week from memory. And that way, if one of them had a sale, it wouldn't throw me off on the game day, grocery shopping. I didn't end up paying more because I thought it was a sale and I'd save money. Little things, but they meant a lot because you always hear every dollar counted, every dime counted. I had to make sure that we get the most for our money. I would go through the grocery store with pen and paper and grocery list, and I would add up as we went through the aisles. That way I would not be surprised, embarrassed, and humiliated when I got to check out that I didn't have enough money to cover the groceries that I had gotten. If I started getting close to that limit, I could put something back before I got up there. With sound calculation, I knew that if I wrote a check, it would take 2 days to clear the bank. Yes, I just let you know how old I was because it was not all instant and automatic. You actually had that lead time from the time that the grocery store took the check till they turned it in and the funds were transferred. So I could actually shop on Thursday and know that Friday when the check went in, there'd be money in there to cover those groceries. And I knew that as long as I left at least $5 in the account, we were good to go. And even though I was really good at this whole process and had it down to a science, it was still draining. It was still humiliating. It was still a process that I felt myself constantly being depressed and just mentally drained. At the time in my life, I felt discouraged, defeated. To deal with the frustrations, a lot of times I would take a walk. The overwhelming feelings, I could release and cry it out and take that walk. And the kids never saw mommy upset, never saw mommy crying, never understood that mommy wasn't happy and feeling as depressed as I was. On one walk particularly, I was getting ready to cross over the railroad tracks and I saw a $20 bill lodged between a rock and the rail. And it was so neatly put there. It was almost as if someone had placed it knowing that I needed it. Secured so the wind wouldn't blow it away, but still visible. I desperately needed that money. I desperately needed it that week for the groceries for my kids. And that moment changed everything. Looking back, it's amazing the amount of relief that came with a $20 bill, but it also drove home the fact that $20 bill could also break my family. My family of 4 needed to have groceries, needed to have, the bills paid, and it amplified the fact that it only took $20 to completely destroy life as I knew it. As I walked home, I made up my mind that that was a horrible place to be. And it was time that I started taking control of my financial situation. I needed to not constantly be in fight or flight mode with my finances. I needed to start harnessing and understanding and working them instead of them beating me up. So that's when I realized that I had superpowers. Yes, I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. Ladies, we have superpowers. We've been lied to for years. We've been made to believe that these superpowers are these huge, fantastic things that we see in the movies. And no, we can't leap tall buildings. We can't fly, but they're still life changing. Those skills that I had harnessed in order to get by, I realized that I could use those to move ahead. Now, I got to tell you, though, I would love a lasso of truth. If I, could pick one, hey, that would be awesome. So the skills that I had learned to survive, I now was going to try and use those to thrive financially. My desire and want for more from my family. See, life takes twists and turns. And by this point, I had divorced the husband that spent $2 if he had $1, and was trying to rebuild for my family. And my desire was to move my kids and myself more towards the goals that I had set. And I started harnessing these new superpowers to move us in that right direction. I began to save money with the possibility of tax-free growth so that my future would be brighter. I developed the superpower of discernment, which was huge because for me, what that meant was now understanding and working the math so that I could start controlling compound interest, start controlling, that tax-free growth versus tax-deferred growth, and start moving towards those goals and start moving with confidence in the right direction. I no longer feel anxiety over going to the grocery store. In fact, I have been blessed that now I have been able to help family members and friends. And I don't say that to be boastful. The reason I say that is because I want you to understand that woman who was broken by a $20 bill did not stay broken. She made the choice to rise again. And she made the choice to make different decisions and to empower herself. And my desire for today is to help other women not make the same mistakes that I made, to cut down the learning time and discover and understand the math and the available products out there to help them move forward and ultimately achieve their own financial independence. Now, before I go any further, I throw that word around, financial independence, but I want to ask, what does financial independence mean to you? For me, it's defined. It's absolutely everything. It's being able to apply your ethics, your morals, your wants, your desires, and not being forced to make decisions just based on money, just based on what can I do because this is the amount of money I have. Being able to make choices that empower you to say, I can do that. I don't have to worry that I'm going to financially fall. That doesn't mean you get to throw caution to the wind and spend like there's no tomorrow. It just means that you're going to still be responsible, but have those choices. And perfect example of that is I had moved myself to that financial independent position. And when we found out that my mom was terminally ill, I could walk away from my job and say, Mom, I'm going to be there for you and I'm going to take care of you. And I didn't have to worry that I was going to lose the house. I wouldn't be able to buy groceries. I wouldn't be able to make my payments. That's financial independence. My journey to financial independence was long. And it's one that I am so happy I had achieved, especially before that moment. When I entered into the financial industry, I had one main goal, And that was to help other women achieve their financial independence and become their golden version. Because our golden version is not what someone else defines as us being gold. It's us being gold and being the person we want to be and being able to make those decisions, the hard ones that we want to make. So, sorry about that. But that's why I do what I do. Because when we decide that we're tired of just surviving financially, when instead we want to thrive and we make that decision to make changes, it changes everything. I've lived it. I've done the work. And now I'm able to help teach other women the unspoken financial secrets, the financial things that they're not being taught, especially women, so that they can be empowered to become their own superhero. So with that being said, I hope you kind of understand a little bit better on why I do what I do and what I want for you. So we're going to talk right now. I want to go ahead and get this pulled up and share my screen. Let's see. And if you have questions, please feel free to put those in, but we'll have question and answers at the end. And I hope that you brought some really great questions, because I can't wait to get those answered for you and hopefully take you to that next step of empowerment. Okay, can everyone see my screen? If you could just throw in the chat that yes, you can, or someone can just give me a heads up, that'd be awesome. Hidden investment opportunities for women. Okay. All right, looks like we are good. So we're going to talk about life insurance. Insurance, we think of as a more modern thing, but it actually was started back in 600 BCE, is the first roots to life insurance. And it was started by the Roman military, who started the first burial club. Members of the burial club would actually cover the other soldiers who had fallen in battle. They would cover their burial expenses. And burial clubs were very common until the fall of the Roman Empire 5 centuries later. So that tells you how long this had been being something that they understood needed to be covered. And I've just kind of highlighted a couple things, because if we went through the whole timeline, y'all would be bored out of your minds and I would be not able to talk. So hopefully these will just kind of give you some highlights. 1300s. Maritime policies were something that were started, and it protected the impact of the cargo, the commercial losses that could happen overseas, because that's how everything was moved. And it was a huge risk. If the cargo was lost, there was a great loss for the person who had sent it. So that was maritime policies started there. By 1706, the first company offering life insurance close to what we know today, more of a traditional life insurance policy, started happening. By 1774, they actually enacted the Life Assurance Act, and it was in Great Britain. And the Parliament set that in place because it was to prevent abuse. Beneficiaries were required to have a financial interest in the life of the deceased. And you can think, well, why is that important? They wanted to make sure that the life insurance policy was not being put in place to pay a debt or those types of things. Even today, if you go to get a life insurance policy, one of the questions that is asked, and it seems like a bizarre question, is this going to be used to pay off a debt, or is it, does the person actually have an insurable interest in the death of the person getting the policy? Which blows my mind, because if you seriously think about that, if it's to pay a debt, the only way that person gets money is if you die. If they're not really a friend and more of a foe, really does not give them a whole lot of incentive to wish you happy, long life. So that one always blew my mind. It seems strange that we have to have that enforced, but hey, what can you say? By 1875, The Widows and Orphans Friendly Society was set up in New Jersey, and that was founded exclusively to cover the burial cost still around, but not charged. Or this company who did this is still around, but they're no longer called the Widows and Orphans Friendly Society. And I'm going to guess that most of you already know this name. It's Prudential. So they've been around for that long, and were actually founded in New Jersey. So I found those just some really fascinating facts about insurance. I know it's not a cool subject. Life insurance is not one that everybody's like, oh yeah, tell me everything. But when you start actually learning some of these facts, and what we're going to talk about next, it can be very, very beneficial. So life insurance types. Whole life insurance is probably one that most people have heard about. It's a permanent life coverage meant to last until your death. The premiums are normally scheduled. They do not change, and they do have a cash value implication to them, which is normally a set rate, and you've got that for the entire life of the policy. But let me ask you this. How many of you think life insurance is only good when you die? And just throw a thumbs up or thumbs down in the chat. We'll kind of get an idea there on some thoughts. Okay. All right, so it looks like the majority kind of don't know a whole lot about life insurance, and that's okay. I've got a couple thumbs up that people knew that it was for more than that. While everyone's still kind of putting their tabs in, I'm going to share a story. And this, to me, was kind of mind-blowing. I had a husband and wife come in my office. They had 5 children, all in tow. The kids were excellent. Mom had done a great job. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. And Dad said to me, I need to put a whole life policy in place because if something happens to me, she sank. I'm the breadwinner. I make all the money. She would not have any means of income. Okay, great. So we talked about that. And then I asked him, I said, so do we want to put a lesser policy or what type of policy do we want to put on Mom? And he goes, oh, there's no need to put a policy on her. She doesn't work. What? I said, oh, okay. He says, yeah, I mean, why would I'm still going to work, so I'll still have the income. Why would I possibly want to put something on her? It seems like a waste. And she's sitting there quietly and has her eyes downcast. And I'm thinking, I'm sure he didn't mean to do this, but he just totally stripped away all of her importance in that relationship. So I asked him, I said, oh, you're going to continue to work? Well, yeah. I said, and so are you going to hire someone to care for the children during the day while you're at work? Well, yeah, I'll probably have to do that. I said, okay. Are you going to make sure that person also is okay? I mean, 5 kids. There's going to be driving that needs to be done. So there's a lot of driving. There's going to be getting them here and go, and all the different things that kids have to do when they get a little older. Well, yeah, I guess so. I said, do you cook? No. Okay, so are you going to hire someone to prepare meals for you and your family? Are you going to hire a maid? I don't know. I guess I hadn't thought about that. Okay, so is it going to be a live-in nanny who's going to care for the kids, cook, clean, and do everything? Well, I don't know. I said, what Mom does, she doesn't get paid for it. You're right. But what Mom does, if you had to pay someone to do everything she did, do you think maybe you might need a life insurance policy since that's all outside of your normal budget to cover? Mom now was looking at me and smiling because someone realized her value. And he all of a sudden said, I have never thought about it that way, but I mean, she stays home because we want our kids to be taken care of by their mom. And he looked at her and she just smiled. And that to me was an aha moment, but a really cool moment too, because he came in with a whole different perspective of what Mom's role was and why life insurance wouldn't be needed when actually it was. So another form of insurance is term insurance. And I've had people ask me, well, which is better? And we haven't even named the other ones yet, but let's just start there. Term life insurance policy is very important for a designated term. For instance, like a mortgage. You've got a 30-year mortgage. You probably need a term policy to cover that 30 years while you have the mortgage, because if something happens, you don't want the surviving spouse and the kids to lose the home. And now on top of their most emotional moment possible, they've lost their love person, you know, their love of their life and a parent. Now they've got to figure out, where are we going to live? Now we maybe are uprooted from all of our friends as well. You want to make sure that they're secure and taken care of. Even if you can't afford the entire amount for the house, at least give them that time period to figure things out. So that's why a term policy is very good. Kind of going back to where I was at when I told you in 97, I had the 1-year-old and the 3-year-old and money was tight. We always had a term policy for each of us, my husband and myself, for that reason. And again, I was that person that sat down every Saturday or Saturday morning before the kids got up, or one night, like Friday night after the kids went to bed, and would spread out the 14 different credit cards that I had. And I would bounce payments around and try to figure out how to pay for everything. I knew that if we were struggling that desperately, if something happened to one of us, there was no way we were going to keep that house unless we had something in place to protect that. Now, neither of us died, and you know, some would say, well, you didn't need it, but we did, because it was that assurance that if he died, I wouldn't lose the house and I'd have time to figure things out. If I died, he wouldn't lose the house, but he would still need help figuring it out. Sorry. Okay, so that's an idea of why a term policy is so important. Indexed universal life is a permanent, again, another type of permanent coverage, and has a saving component. The cash value is indirectly tied to the stock market through indexing products. So that means that when the stock market goes up, you experience some of the gain, but when the stock market goes down, you have zero loss. In fact, most indexed universal lives still allow some growth, a guaranteed within the contract, that even if the stock market goes down and people are losing money, you would still gain a small amount based on the policy type. Love these. These are amazing products. I use these for different things. One of the things that I love to use these for is it actually serves, especially for younger people. It gives them a life insurance policy. It gives them an emergency fund. And it also gives them a retirement fund that later on they can actually pull income tax free to help subsidize retirement. So beautiful product. They also work fantastic for if you have a little one in your life, either child, grandchild, and you want to do a college fund. If you do something like a 529, those have to be utilized in the state that they're set up 9 times out of 10, and they have to go towards education or they become taxable. I like the Indexed Universal Life because it's building that cash value. Kids get ready to graduate, they can actually pull the one-time lump sum from their policy, help with the cost of college, and then continue funding it. And it turns into a retirement plan for them later. So to me, it doesn't matter where they go to school, doesn't matter. Let's say they decide, hey, college is not for me. I want to go to a tech school instead. It doesn't matter. With a 529, there are certain requirements they have to qualify for, or else it doesn't count. Let's say you have a very entrepreneur type of child, grandchild, and they're like, hey, you know what? I want to start my own business, but I need X amount of dollars to do that. They can actually fund themselves and get the leg up and not start with a huge debt. Or maybe they just need it for the first down payment for their very first home. There's no requirements because it's a life insurance policy, so there aren't those same regulations, ties, and having to have approval in order to utilize your money. So as you can tell, I love them. I have 2, have one for my grandson. Beautiful product, beautiful product. And then there is a guaranteed life product. And these are ones that you see on TV all the time. And I'm going to guess that most people don't understand how they work, what they are, because you'll see that they say that it's guaranteed life insurance, no physical required, no medical questions asked. How do those work and how do they seem so inexpensive? Maximum coverage on those, they vary, but on an average, you're probably going to be about a $25,000 limit. And often 100% of coverage is delayed for a tiered percent based on a time period system. And I don't know if that made sense or not, but for instance, it might be 3 years. So maybe the first year you get 25% if you die from a health reason. Then maybe the following year you get 50%, and then 75%, and then 100% on that fourth year. So there's a time system. And normally when you see like it's $11 for a unit, normally those units equate to amounts of coverage. So maybe it's $1,000 of coverage for $12. So every 1,000 that you add adds another unit, means another additional $12. And that's how those work. Now, I said that it has that tiered system. Normally, the only thing that they avoid the tier and it automatically is 100% if it's an accidental death. So again, different companies have different little tiering systems and those types of things, but at least you understand what type of coverage it is and how it works. Okay. Now, life insurance. We said that you can build that cash value in a whole life policy. Here are some examples of people who have used their life insurance for other things other than just death. James Cash Penny in 1929 used his policy or cash from his policy to pay his day-to-day expenses and meet payroll while he was rebounding from the Great Depression. Walt Disney, 1955, used cash value when the banks would not fund his dream for Disneyland. Ray Kroc in 1961 used cash value from his life insurance policy to hallmark the branding of his campaign and pay for his key employees. Doris Christopher in 1980, she used $3,000 from her cash value of her life insurance policy. Now, when I say that, please understand they did not cancel their life insurance policies. That's called surrender value. That's not the same as utilizing cash value from your policy. The policy stays in force. You're just using some money from it for whatever the situation. Doris used $3,000 to start her business. By 2001, that business had 12 million customers nationwide and an annual revenue of over 740 million. Pampered Chef was purchased by Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway in 2002 for an undisclosed amount. I would say that is a smart investment of $3,000 all day long. So these are just a couple people that I figured you would know all their names and it would make sense. There are common people out there every day who use cash value for different things. Actually, one of the things that I help clients with is utilizing a whole life policy, which has a guaranteed cash value growth. And we use that to help them get ahead of and conquer their credit card debt, their home loan, their car loan. And we set up a timeline to get that paid off sooner so that they are having less negative effects from their compound interest. So don't think that, wow, you have to be a millionaire in order for this to work. These are some of the nuggets that we are sharing because common people, you and I, can grow and can benefit from our own money. Know your options. Remember the secrets about life insurance. Understand what they are. When you're looking at a plan, know the difference of these different types of policies so that you can gain the ability to choose the one that makes the most sense for you and helps you achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve. And understanding the strengths and weaknesses, because you don't want to get a life insurance policy thinking, I'm going to do this with it, and it's not the right type of policy. So this is what we help. I help people do. I help them understand and make the right decisions based on what their goals, objectives, and dreams are. So I hope that you found this helpful. And if anyone has any questions, I would love to answer those. Let me pull this back up here. Okay. If please scan our code and get the free gift. And let me see, check out our website if you would like to have some help looking at different types of life insurance and figure out what would help. That's what I'm here for. Jump on the website, schedule time, and we can chat. All right. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. And I am struggling to get my chat screen open here. Hold on one second. I'm gonna have to stop sharing. I'll put the screen back up in case you haven't had a chance to take a look at that. Okay, we've got some questions. So how do I go about figuring out where or which type of life insurance is best for my situation? That's a great question. And what I would say is jump on and schedule time, and we can actually look at that, because in order to determine which type of insurance is right for you, we need to find out where you're at in life and what you are trying to conquer. Are we trying to get out of debt? Are we trying to set up an emergency fund life insurance and a retirement stream for later on? Or are we uninsurable? But we need to put something in place because we don't want our burial cost to burden our family and end up driving them to be in debt, have financial difficulty. So we'll look at those things and we can actually figure out what makes the most sense. Okay. Any other questions? I hope this wasn't all too overwhelming. I know I threw a lot of information at you, but the free gift that we have should help with some of that too. And please, we're encouraged to grab that and hopefully just it's some definitions and some explanation and kind of walk you through those things. And again, happy to help and answer questions that might come up. And any other questions? Fantastic. I'm going to go back and share this screen really quick in case someone did not get a chance to grab it. There we go. And if there are no more questions, I just thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you have a truly fantastic day and just be golden.